Once again, I welcome everybody to the fourth series of this webinar. The theme of the webinar is NIESV Critical Analysis Guide for Candidate and Supervisor. And the topic for today, which of course is the last in this series, is Requirements and Guide for Associate Election Interview. In any profession, for anybody, for a person to become a professional, he must, as a matter of necessity, subject himself to series of tests, examinations, and interviews, which are deliberately set out by the profession to assess the person's ability, his knowledge, technical or competence before such a person can be admitted into the profession. This series of tests, examinations, interviews are together referred to as tests of professional competence. In Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, associate election interview is the final stage of test of professional competence. Okay, we said earlier, like I said earlier, our series 1, 2, and 3 have taken care of topic selection, writing of synopsis, CA writing, and the what and what to the do's and the don'ts in CA writing. That has been taken care of. So this fourth series is limited to requirements and guide for associate election interview. And in talking about these requirements, I have been able to segment it into the requirements for selection for interview, because the way NIESV runs is that when applications are submitted, okay, they screen the applications of the candidate to ensure that all the candidates, or that the candidates they would invite for interview eventually have the required qualification. I've met all the required qualifications. So they do selection. So to be able to qualify, we're going to look at the requirement for somebody to be selected in the first place. And when you are selected, it is after that selection that you are invited for interview. And that is why you find that it is not in all cases where somebody submits application. We found in many cases when people will submit application, and when the list of those who are invited for interview comes out, they find that their names are not there. So lately or recently, NIESV has started doing, communicated to them by email. And it happened, I think, in the last 2-3 interviews, where those that were not invited were sent email to tell them that, oh, okay, these were the issues they had, why they were not invited for the interview. In fact, the last one, what they did was to even make sure that before they collated the final list, they opened a WhatsApp platform for those that they have invited, and they sent the names of people who have been invited and those who have been, selected on conditional basis, subject to, okay, one reason or the other, maybe they've not provided their degree certificate and all of that. So based on that, they do the selection and later they invite for interview. So we are going to first look at what are the requirements, what will make a candidate, or what does a candidate require? What are the criteria that a candidate must meet to be able to be qualified for selection? Okay, so number one is passing all professional examinations up to PPE level. Okay, a person who will even attempt, who will commence the process of topic selection at all, must be somebody who has passed all the exams up to PPE level. Okay, and in all our previous sessions we had, we talked about the way, what and what a person needs to be able to pass exam and all of that. So the point I'm making here is that you must have passed exam up to PPE level. And it is not say, oh, okay, you pass PPE alone, because there are instances where some people will pass PPE exam, but they have maybe a receipt in PQ, one of the courses in PQ3. What we are saying is that you must have passed everything up to PPE level. Then it is a requirement that any candidate that is going to be selected for interview must have acquired practical experience in a recognized office for a minimum of, for a period of 2 years. And these 2 years, by NIESV guideline, has to be post-graduation. That is, if you study estate management, your HND holder or BSc holder, it must be after the 2 years counts after graduation. Okay. However, lately the NYSC year is now being counted as one of the 2 years, because you can now write exam even during your NYSC, provided the NYSC year will be counted, provided you have done your service in an estate firm or in a government ministry where estate survey, an aspect of estate survey and valuation is the main thing they do there. Okay, then what about for candidates who did not study estate management in the university or in polytechnic? Okay, when will their own 2 years starts? By NIESV guideline, their 2 years will start from when they pass the final qualifying exam. When they pass the final qualifying exam, that is what is in the guideline. Okay, then we have upon payment of the required application fee by the candidates. Now, at this point, there's a new innovation. The new innovation is that, and I think we must give credit to the institution on this. The new innovation is that, okay, before it used to be that you pay for application for associate membership of the institution. Now you'll be given the physical form, or you download it on NIESV website, you take it to the secretariat, they minute on it, and you make necessary payment. I think usually 10,000 naira. Okay, when this payment is made, you fill the form, and there are columns for where you need 4 sponsors, 2 of which must be a fellow financially up to date, and the remaining 2 associates who are also financially up to date. And these associates must not be less than 5 years post-associate qualification. So you take it to them, they sign, you take it to your employer, does his own endorsement, the branch chairman will also sign. Okay, this time around, the innovation now is that this pink form has to be filled online. They created what we call pink form portal on our website. So to fill your, after making payments now, you just go there, you open the pink form format, and this is the procedure. Okay, upon payment of the required application fee by the candidate, pink form is filled online through the pink form portal by the candidates. Now the question would now be that if the candidate will fill, where will be the signature of the sponsors, the branch chairman, and the employer? Now, the candidate sponsors, comprising 2 financially up-to-date fellows and 2 financially up-to-date associates of not less than 5 years post-associate election, they also fill the form. Now, the procedure is that the candidate will go to that portal, try to create an account, and is going to get a password. Okay, so by the time the candidate does that, he can fill all the necessary, there are different sections there. He can fill all the necessary information that are required. And his employer too will have access to that portal, either by way of filling certain things, and they are going to upload their signatures. So this pink form portal is not meant for the candidate alone, even though the candidate is the one that will create it after payment, is the one that will create it after create an account. After creating an account, the next thing is that it will upload, fill the required parts, and upload certain documents, which we are going to see as we move on. Then the supervisor, the sponsors, the employers, and the branch chairman will also have access to that account to be able to fill their parts and also upload their signature. That is the new innovation. Then, after this, the following documents shall be uploaded on the relevant section of the pink form portal after completing the form. 1, recommendation letter from candidate's employer. This is now required. A recommendation letter used to be when you want to apply for membership. Okay, so that recommendation letter will also be uploaded. It's not that you are writing a new recommendation letter. Of course, you have been recommended before becoming a member. So you upload that recommendation letter. Then recommendation letter from candidate's branch chairman. This is now very important. He gets a recommendation letter. This will also be uploaded. Candidate will be required to upload clearly scanned copies of educational certificates, NIESV certificates or exemption letter, updated dues receipts, conferences, MCPDs. Now, at this point, of course, conferences and MCPDs, they are parts, very important part of the requirement, because a lot of time we've seen candidates not invited for interview because they don't have the required number of conferences and the required number of MCPDs. So at this point, I want to refresh our memory that by telling us that we, as part of the requirements, every person who is going to be qualified for selection and by subsequently invited for interview is a requirement that he must have 20 credit points. And this 20 credit point, the way it has been analyzed is that you must have 2 conferences. And each conference has 7 credit points. Okay, these 2 conferences will give you 14 points. Then you need 2 MCPDs, 2 state MCPDs. Each state MCPD is 3 points. By the time you have 2, you already have 6 points. Add that to your 14 points, you have the minimum of 20. Or you do 1 state MCPD, 1 national MCPD. 1 national MCPD for a day is 5 points. 1 state MCPD for a day is 3 points. Okay, 3 credit points. But state MCPD for 2 days is 5 credit points. Okay, so that's the requirement. Then candidates will also be required to upload the signatures of their sponsors. Candidate can do it, but like I said earlier, their sponsors and supervisors can also have access to the account to be able to fill their part because of the issue of signature. They may want to do it on their own, which is very important. Then the signature of the candidate is also required for the purpose of attestation. Okay, then apart from that, 8 copies of spiral binded and 2 copies of hard binded critical analysis. And this critical analysis, the hard binded, the 2 copies that will be hard back binded will be navy blue color, not black, because in many occasions people use black, and the institution is now insisting that it has to be navy blue and not black. Spiral binding. This aspect with time, from what I gather, this aspect with time will also fade up, because this, apart from these 8 copies of spiral binded critical analysis and the 2 hard copies, you are still going to submit online. So the submission online, you also do submission online, and that's your submission online is what is sent to supervisors, not the hard copies. So the institution is looking at a way of phasing out even submission of hard copies, and I know with time that will be done. So then the soft copy will also be then duly completed and signed logbooks, diaries, and the analysis sheet will also be submitted as hard copy. And you know that your critical analysis, your diary, your analysis sheet, and the logbook will have to be filled for a period of 2 years that we mentioned earlier. That's the period of your pupillage. Now, let me say at this point that the candidates and the supervisor, from what we can have now, from all the innovations that are coming up now, the candidate and the supervisor will have to work together very well. As a matter of fact, the supervisor will do more than just a supervisor now, and will also work like a mentor, a professional mentor, because it is now the critical analysis written by candidates is now being, the liability is now being placed not only just on the candidate, but also on the supervisors. That is why the institution has introduced what we call oaths form. Candidate will have to sign a oath, the supervisor will have to sign a oath, and the supervisor's side is that supervisor is attesting, saying that he actually supervised the work. So no supervisor at this point will say you just sign without knowing what the candidate has written. So that error is gone. You must know what the candidate has written, and if the candidate has not done the correct thing, the institution, there's also a punishment. The institution the punishment is that such a supervisor will be suspended for a period of 2 years from supervising, will be suspended from supervising candidates for a period of 2 years. Not only that, the name of such supervisor will be published on NIESV platforms that he cannot supervise, so that candidates will not make a mistake of going to them for supervision. So it's now becoming serious, because it has shown, past events have shown that supervisors don't pay attention to the supervisees' work. And most of the things that the membership committees see, they find that people do not really supervise. Many people do not really supervise. They just, based on the work they submit. So they are now placing liability both on the candidate and the supervisor. Now, this is a guide to application for election interview via the pink form online. I think I've said a bit of this. Is the link that is here. Maybe after this something, I may share a Word document where you have all of this for the purpose of our time. Okay, so I'll share a document having all of this, so that we don't need to go through them all over again. Okay, so now let us now go to requirements for the interview. Requirement for the interview. All we have said before now are the things that the candidates need to be able to prepare, or that he has to submit, so that they can look at the application. If everything is intact, then the candidate will be qualified for selection. And once he's selected, he will be invited for interview. Now, when the candidate is now invited for interview, to be able to be successful, okay, to be successful at the interview, what are the requirements? There are also certain requirements that will make the candidate that he has to do, or they has to meet to be able to be successful at the interview. One of these requirements is that he must present all his original certificates for citing by the interview panel. Okay. Yes, you have uploaded all your academic certificates online, but the interview panel want to see your originals. They want to cite your originals. Not for anything, they will cite and return them back to you. And I think candidates must be very careful here, because we have seen instances of missing original certificates. So ensure that when you present your certificate to the panel for citing, remember to take them back from them. They are human beings like you. Anybody can forget. So, but it's your properties. Make sure that it is you get them back from the panel. Okay. Candidate must satisfy the interview panel on the critical analysis, knowledge of the institution, professional knowledge, and current affairs. Now, that is why we said it is tests of professional competence. You have to be able to satisfy the panel that the critical analysis is your work, that you wrote the critical analysis. It is not only that you wrote the critical analysis, you partook in the projects upon which you have written the critical analysis. And that is why it is easy if it's actually your work. So you flow. And what the panel want to see is they want to extract from you that confidence that, oh, the way you make, and that is why sometimes when they tell you to summarize your critical analysis, you find that in summarizing your critical, and when you get to a point, they will stop you. Somebody will just interject, one of the members of the panel, and will ask you another question based on your critical analysis. Why are they doing this? They want to be sure. They want to see the mastery of your critical analysis. They want to extract it from you. That's to be sure that you actually wrote your critical analysis, and the project upon which your critical analysis was written was actually a project you partook in or you carried out as individually. So they want to see that. So you must be able to satisfy the panel. Then knowledge of the institution, like who is the chairman of your branch, who is the branch chairman of the state where you are having your interview, and several other questions relating to the institution. This is to test whether you actually know you are close to the institution, so that it won't just be that somebody who is alien to what is happening in the institution is the person is one coming for they want to be sure you have the knowledge of the institution. Then professional knowledge. The professional knowledge area cut across all our different areas of practice: valuation, property management, project management, and so many other parts of our practice. So they ask you a question on building elements, they want to be sure that the interview panel is not making a mistake to assume that you know everything, but they want to quantify your level of knowledge and be satisfied as a panel that with what you know, you can be a professional member of the institution. Knowledge is something that is a continuous thing. They know, but they just want to be sure that with the knowledge you have of the institution, of the profession, is enough as a base to be able to admit you in. Then you can build on that knowledge later. And in this case, let me also emphasize that critical analysis is critical. Critical analysis is critical. When we get to areas of assessment, we are also going to look at that. It's very critical. So much so that if a candidate does not write his critical analysis well, and cannot present the critical analysis very well to convince the interview panel, that such a candidate may not pass the interview. And this is the area where many people have problems when they can't, present their work very well. So it's a professional calling, and let's not get sentimental about it. You have to have basic knowledge to be able to come in. So, and that is what the membership committee panel is trying to extract. Then at the interview, it is also a requirement that a candidate scores a minimum of 50% average for a pass mark. Once a candidate is able to move at 50 and above on the average, then such a candidate is considered to have passed. But if a candidate fails to meet that, then such a candidate cannot be, you will have to repeat the interview again, God forbid. Then another requirement is at the interview is the candidate must donate to the institution a minimum of 2 standard books in any area of estate surveying and valuation. Okay, this is for the library, for the institution's library. It is a compulsory donation. Then the candidate will also be required to donate to the institution's benevolent funds. And this, the usual practice is that they will state the minimum, and you will be asked to make a pledge after your interview. Then let us now look at areas of assessment of candidates for associates interview. Okay, for the purpose of NIESV election interview, a candidate is assessed in the following areas. 1, critical analysis, both writing and presentation. Okay, and for critical analysis, I don't know if this is still I'm not a member of membership committee, but I don't know. But I don't know if what I want to say now is still in practice. It used to be critical analysis alone used to be 40%. Okay, it used to be 40%. By writing and submitting the critical analysis, they will grade you based on 20%. You can score, 20%, you can score less. And the percentage allotted to writing is used to be 20%. Then your presentation on the day of the interview, how convincing you are on your presentation to the interview panel will determine what you will score over 20 on your presentation. So that means that the critical analysis alone, if that practice is still what the membership still runs, the critical analysis alone is carrying 40 marks. Okay, so it's not something that one should joke with. And as a matter of fact, my own experience has taught me that if you do your work yourself, if you not only that you have written your critical analysis yourself, if you understand the work and the project was your own work or the one you partook in, and you wrote your critical analysis yourself, I don't see any reason why a candidate should not do well in the area of critical analysis. Because what you have written, and good enough, it has been simplified now, it's not 3,000 words. And the way it is structured now, which I'm also going to show, I'm going to, the other screen I will share later, you also see the way it has been structured now is very okay. It's just for you to know the main point and you are home and dry. So now, the other thing is knowledge of the profession. That is another area of assessment. Okay, from what I used to know, knowledge of the profession carries 20%. Everything is 100%. Okay, then carries knowledge of the profession carries 20%. Okay, so which means all the questions on valuation, on building, on different other areas of our profession, when they ask, you are going to be graded over 20. Whatever you score, it will be added to what you score in critical analysis, writing, and presentation. Okay, so you can see that it is not area, and the panel will not joke with it because you want to be admitted as a professional. So they require that you convince them beyond reasonable doubt that you are a fit and proper person to be admitted into the associate cadre of the institution. Then next to that is knowledge of the institution. Of course, I've mentioned this earlier. And from what I used to know also, knowledge of the institution used to be 10% of your 100%. Okay, so whatever you score there is based over 10. Current affairs used to be 10%, and dressing and comportment also used to be 10%. Then if you look at all what I've said now, you'll find that 40%, 20%, 10, that's 90%. Okay, and what we used to know is that 10% is always reserved in case if there's any need for any kind of upgrade. I don't know. I think whether it is still in practice, but like I said, I'm not a member of membership committee. Okay, then next to that is let us now look at some tips. There are certain tips that are required that you need to know, okay, and adopt to be able to be successful at the interview. You know, there's an adage that to know is not just enough, but one must be clever in the use of knowledge. If you know and you don't use the knowledge well, it may not really be helpful. But if you know and you are clever enough to know how to use the knowledge, okay, it's going to be helpful at the end of the day. So what are these tips? One, adhere strictly to the new CA writing formats, submission and presentation rules. Okay, part of what we are going to see today is, which I will share, the screen I will share next after this presentation, is the new CA format, where you see the structure. Okay, one must adhere to it. We've seen a situation where a candidate use the old formats, right, in this era of new formats. Okay, and at the interview venue, they rejected the work. I started running Eta to go and make necessary correction. Okay, so it's not something that just obey the rules. adhere to the rules. Every institution, every guardian have their own rules. Study the rules, ensure that you know and follow. Where you don't know, your supervisor will be very helpful. And that is why, as supervisors too, we must, as a matter of fact, or as a matter of duty, to know all these things so that we can guide, we can mentor our candidates. And we must also remember that in doing that, we are also saving our own head, because there's not liability placed on supervisors. So we have to be, we have to be very careful. Then have a mastery of your critical analysis. Have a mastery. Like I said earlier, what the interview panel wants to know, they want to see that thing, that's what you have written, is in you. That's why sometimes they just ask you one question as you are trying to, once they pick, you are trying to answer the question. The moment they pick what they want in your answer, even if you have not landed, they will ask you another one. They want to test your patience. They want to test whether you cram, because when they ask you different questions, they'll be easily, they are human beings too, and they are experienced. They will know whether if you just cram to tell, but if they see that, no, you see, you know it genuinely, you have the mastery, then they will be convinced to be able to score you high. Okay. Number 3, refresh your knowledge of estate surveying and valuation generally, building, property valuation, agency, generally. Like I said earlier, you cannot know everything. And the interview panel too, they know you cannot know everything, but they want to know what you know. And they want to be sure that what you know is sufficient enough as a base for you to be admitted into the institution. Refresh your knowledge of the institution. This one you can ask. And let me tell you, you don't even need to start bothering yourself when you want to apply, when you want to go for interview. All you need to be able to solve this, most of this problem is partake in the affairs of the institution. Whether as a probationer or as a graduate, as a student, just take interest, partake in the affairs of the institution, and always upgrade your knowledge. Do refresher courses to, to increase yourself in knowledge, so that all these things, it is not when you want to go for interview, you start running, you start learning. No, you don't need all of that. Okay, when you partake in a thing, it becomes part of you. So you don't have to start rushing. It will just come from you naturally when you need it. So also pay attention to current happenings in Nigeria and across the globe. It's very important. Okay, somebody went for interview the other day and came back and saying they had the name of the president of a particular African country. I said, yeah, it's part of the current affairs, because estate surveyors and valuers are people who are supposed to be aware of what happened in their immediate environment and across the globe, because opportunities are bound everywhere. Okay, so we must know what happens everywhere in the world. Then dress corporately and be smart, but know that inside that beautiful suit, there must be substance. Inside that beautiful suit, there must be substance. There must be content. You can dress neatly to the interview, corporately, well-dressed, everybody, everything, to match, and you are well. But they will score you high on dressing and comportment. Yes, over 10. But you must be able to also add to it substance, so that by the time you are being asked and they know you have your score will be high. So it's not just limited to dressing needs, but you must dress corporately and very smart and also neat. It's very important. It's part of it. Then wear preferably plain and bright color shirts or tops with matching tie. Okay, for male. I think muffler for female, matching muffler for female. Okay, it's very important. These are part of what we form. And when I say plain color, sorry, I mean plain and bright color shirts or tops. You see, I am putting on white shirts. When you are wearing a plain color shirt or top, it's easy to be able to check the matching, and it appeals to people. But if you wear stripe, number one, it will even give you an edge, because if you are putting on stripe, a shirt that has stripe, it will be selecting tie, you start looking for which tie maybe the stripe is even different colors too. And in that case, you know that the kind of tie you have to put on under that circumstance should be a plain tie, so that everything will not be striped, tie, stripe, stripe. Okay, so it has to be so that everything will flow into the order. Okay, so it's very important. Go early to the venue and study the building elements, features, fittings, and finishing materials. Okay, in this case, what I mean by this is that you have interview, for instance, in Abuja, and you don't reside in Abuja. Of course, you'll be required to come to the venue by 8 o'clock. Now, you need to go a day before. If you have time a day before, please visit the venue. But when I went for my interview in Calabar, I was there a day to the interview, and I went to the venue. That was the day to the interview was the day they had the Ekpenyong Memorial Lecture. Okay, and I went there and I met some very senior colleagues. I started asking them the part of the building, skirting, the kind of finishing materials, and I got there, and on the day of the following day at my interview, I was asked 3 different questions based on the video elements in the building, okay, and finishing. So it's boosted my morale because I was able to answer the questions well. Okay, so it's very important that we know this. Then, okay, interact with colleagues for the purpose of sharing ideas before interview commences. Don't just go there and just stay on your own. No matter what you know, you need other people too. You need to compare notes, okay? They are just interact generally with people, and whatever you need to know that you don't know, you ask them. What they don't know too, they ask you. You try to compare notes, so it helps a lot because no one person can know it all. Okay, get all your original certificates well arranged and your books ready. Here, your books. And let me just give you a tip here. When you are supposed to contribute 2 books, please buy your books ahead of time and take it to the venue. Okay, experience has shown that when you get to the venue, you are going to be a special purchaser. Okay, because at that venue that day, when you want to buy, the people who will bring the books to sell there, they have paid for the venue. So there's the likelihood of you buying at a premium. Okay, so that's then when you are invited to meet your panelists, please greet them, but don't sit down. Greet them, don't sit down until you are told to do so. Okay, and when they say, please sit down, you tell them, thank you, sir, or thank you, ma'am. Okay, it's part of the courtesy. Okay, then be audible when answering questions. Okay, but do not shout at your panelists. Be audible. Don't allow them to start telling you because you're already under tension. Facing like exam. You are talking and they say, please, can you speak up? That may cause some kind of panic in you, anxiety in you, and when that happens, you may not be coordinated. So just ensure that you talk or you speak in an audible manner, but don't shout at them. Then be confident and bold, but do not be arrogant. Don't say you know it. And again, don't argue with them, because you cannot be your own interviewer. You cannot be your own interviewer. You are there for the interview. They are the ones the panelists are the ones that will interview you. So whatever answer you give, if they say the answer is not correct, just say, yes, sir. My brother, my sisters, even when you know that the answer, what they told you is not correct, please keep it in your mind. Your examiner at that point are the ones that will determine your fate at that point. So just say, yes, sir. If you want to even be like me, just get a jotter, whatever they write, scribble it on the jotter and code. Okay, because the whole of this interview process has a bit of interpersonal relationship in it. Okay, once the way you have presented yourself, you have presented yourself in a way that somebody has a kind of wrong impression about your character, it may affect how he's going to score you. So we need to be very careful about that. All of us are human beings. Okay, then be cheerful and speak to your panelists politely. Okay, just speak to them politely, no matter what you know. At that day, they know everything more than you. I don't want to know what you know. That day, they know everything more than you. So your fate is in their hands as far as passing the interview is concerned. So just listen to them. So, okay, I've said do not argue with the panelists. Then do not use associate lapel before and during the interview. You are not an associate yet. Associate lapel is meant for associates. So you are not supposed to use it before the interview. You are not supposed to use it during the interview. The moment you pass the interview at that venue, you can use it. But how do you know that you passed the interview at the venue? So it is even advisable not to even use the lapel at all. Leave the lapel until you have many years to use the lapel. Me, I'm even tired of my own lapel now. Most times I don't use it again on my jackets. So that is the way it is, so that these are things that will not make you have trouble, that will not give you headache, that will make you to avoid anything that will affect your success in the interview. So if you're in doubt of anything before and after your interview, please ask your branch chairman or any national officer. And this happens a lot of time. After the interview, you are not sure with the way the panelists, maybe they were one or two were aggressive, they were not too friendly. And sometimes they even do it that way. They want to test you because it's a test. You have gone for a test. So sometimes they want to raise their voice, they want to see how you react to it. Okay. And people who do not know or who do not have this knowledge, they may want to know. You don't do that. All of these are part of the test. Even when they raise their voice, it doesn't mean that they hate you, but they are carrying out the necessary tests they are supposed to carry out on you. So, but if you are doubting anything, it's always good to meet your branch chairman or any national officer. They are there to help you. Then, pregnant or sick and need help, please see your branch chairman or any member of the membership committee. What kind of help can you need when you are sick? What kind of help can you need if you are pregnant? Okay, you may not have the your health may not be, you may need, your health may need attention. So you may need them to quickly attend to you so that you can go back and rest or take your drug. Or maybe you have not even eaten, you didn't eat before you came there and you need to take a drug, take your drug. Please let them know. They are not your enemies. They want you to pass too. The only thing is that they cannot bring everything down because they like you to pass. No, the standard must be adhered to. So be free enough to let them know your problem, and they will help you out of it. You may politely plead for downward review of your pledge. When they say, go and pay 200,000 naira, go and pay 300,000 naira, go and pay 150,000 naira, and you want to, this money is much for me, all you need to do is just plead with them politely. And in doing that, they are also human beings. They have firms. Okay, they know what is going on in the country. They know how things are. So they also want to assist in one way or the other. But in order to get them to assist you, to review the pledge downward, you have to speak to them in a polite manner. Okay, just try to talk to them, not for you to say, I don't have this money. If you say you don't have the money, he will not tell you to go and pay. That's what he will pay. So we must be careful with that. Then proofread your work very well. And if possible, produce your CA from a literate typist. When I'm saying literate, somebody who knows how to read and write. Yes, because on many occasions, you find that the typist that is typing for you and doesn't really He doesn't know how to read. He's just typing anything he sees on the paper you gave to him, just typing anything there. And if you don't, give it time to proofread very well, you find that there are certain things that are wrong. And what we see in most cases is that candidates are in rush. When they hear the date of deadline like this, the deadline may be in 1 month, maybe in 2 months' time. But when it is at that, the eve of the deadline, the 11th hour, you see them rushing. They want to meet up. No, you have to give it time, because you go and present, you go and defend it. So give it time. And you know that the moment you submit your work, before you even get to the interview venue, they will have read your work. They will have seen the errors there. They will have noted down the errors. And you'll be faced with those things on the day of your interview. And what about the 20 marks that is allotted to the writing? If it's poorly done, it means you are going to be scored low, over 20, on the writing of the critical analysis. So we must be serious. Both supervisors and candidates must be serious with the CA, so as to help the candidate. And we know that as we are helping the candidate, we are also, in a way, helping ourselves. Okay, I've talked about proofreading it. Then take corrections, even when you are sure of your answer. I've said this earlier. You cannot be your own interviewer. Take correction. When they say, no, this is the way it is, don't argue. You are not the interviewer, you are the interviewee. They are correct. Anything they say, they are correct. So if there's anything you know that they are not correct, when you leave there, you can be, but that day, because they may even do it deliberately. They may know that what they told you is wrong, and they want to test your patience. So just say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. So I think this is very important. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I want to believe that the little efforts I've been able to make by presenting this to you will be useful for all participants. And I am also a learner, and we continue to learn. So after this, I would want to respond to questions. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you so much, NIESV Kamaldeen, for a well-delivered lecture. We really do appreciate your effort and your time. May God continue to increase your knowledge, sir.
Amen. Thank you so much, sir. Emma.
Okay. Now we're in question and answer sections. Participants should feel free to drop their questions in the question chat. And sir, we have 2 questions already.
Okay. Okay, I think I can see a question from Ms. Oluwatosin Ajayi. Say, what's of the certificates we download from NIESV websites? Do they count as original? Yeah, yes, Mrs. Oluwatosin Ajayi, yes, they count as original. Once you do any MCPD or conference, these days, NIESV does not give you physical certificate anymore. So after the conference or MCPD, you are required to go and download your certificate, and it counts as the original, so long as you download it on the website, and when you upload it on the pink form platform, is acceptable as it's going to be accepted as the original. Then Mr. DK Uliga, when you say substance, kindly explain what you mean. Thank you. Okay, what I mean by substance, what I said is that inside the beautiful suit you have put on, there must be substance. I'm talking about your content in terms of knowledge, that it is not just enough. Your dressing, there's mark for it. It's very important you dress well, not only for the interview. As assistant surveyors and valuers, we are supposed to be dressing well all the time, because we need to appear good before our clients and even the public, to be able to project our profession. So what I'm saying is that it is not only for you to dress well. Yes, it's very important. You must also make sure that you, in terms of the content, your knowledge, you must be able to answer questions. You must be able to show to the panel that you have substance, that you know you have deep knowledge of the profession. That's what I mean by that. Then, oh, okay. Sorry, Mr. Oluwatosin Ajayi. Sorry. Okay. Another question here. Please, you said you will share the format for the C. Okay, I'll share it. Let me put it down and bring that up while we are answering the question. So we can be taking, Medina, we can be taking the questions. Let me try to share that format so that we can.
Okay, sir.
Very sure. Okay, thank you, my namesake, Mr. Kamarudin Oladipo. Thank you for your prayer. Okay, let me see. Okay, so on the screen is the new format for writing, and moderator, kindly please be taking note of new questions when they come in. Let me just run through this with them. Okay, new format for writing and submitting critical analysis as provided by Council on 23rd of April 2022 in Port Harcourt. So you can see it's the recent development. So we have the preliminary page, okay, and under that we have the cover page. The cover page is that front page where you have when you do your hard binding, hard cover binding. That's front page. That's the cover page. Then you have the title page inside that cover page. Okay, they look alike, but they are not in terms of the content. The contents are not exactly the same. Okay, then approved synopsis. These are part of the things you put at your preliminary pages of your CA. Then you have when they say approved synopsis or validation. Okay, what this means is that if your synopsis is approved this year, or if your synopsis was approved in 2021, maybe 2021 January, okay, by now, this is March, 2nd of March. By today, if you have not completed your critical analysis and submitted, see today, that's your synopsis that was approved in January 2021 as it has become invalid. Okay, you have to revalidate it. To revalidate it means that you are going to represent that same synopsis, the one they approved before. You make a copy. Sorry, you make like I think it used to be 3 copies. Okay, and you are going to write a letter for revalidation of synopsis. Okay, this letter for revalidation of synopsis, in the what part of the contents in the body of the letter, you'll be able to say the reason why you were not able to complete your CA within the space of 2 years when your synopsis was approved. And for this revalidation, you have to pay a sum of 10,000 naira as a revalidation fee. Then you attach your PPE and PQE results. Okay, approved, signed with candidate's photograph. Before, it used to be just PPE result only. Okay, from what we have here, it's now PPE result and PPE and PQE results. Okay, with containing the photograph of the candidate. Then it has to come this is the arrangement, how your work will be: acknowledgement, certification, dedication. You have table of content, list of tables if you have tables in your work, list of figures, there are figures, list of plates. Okay, that is the pictures in plates. You do the list as part of your table of contents, and to show where they are in the body of your work, and so that when somebody wants to look at that, they know the number they will open to. It makes it easier. And a lot of time people make errors here. You find that when you handle some work, you look at list of tables or list of plates. The number on the table of content, when you go to the body, is a different number. You're already scoring yourself low. because the panelist is going to grade your CA over 20 before the actual presentation. So you have to do it, ensure that you do it very well. Okay, then list of abbreviations, if any. Then you now go to the critical analysis, which is a maximum of 3,000 words. Okay, and the font size and the font size and line spacing should equally be used for the submission of synopsis. And okay, in the past, people used to use different types of font size and spacing. So the same font size that is approved for critical analysis is what is expected that your synopsis will also carry in before it is submitted. And you know that synopsis is just is a maximum of 100 words. Then you have chapter 1, case study for a case study or project description. Chapter 2, key issues and challenges. We've done. I'm not going to I'm not going deep in it because we've done lecture on that, which I've said earlier that you can get on our YouTube page. Then chapter 3, options or to solve the identified challenges. Okay, then chapter 4, recommendations, recommended. I think this chapter 4 is a recommendation really, because in chapter 3 we have options. These options are the solutions for solving the identified problem in chapter 2. Then chapter 4 is recommendation. You see, a lot of time people make a mistake of thinking they are not the same. Okay, but if you get our lecture on critical analysis, it will be helpful in this regard. Then chapter 5, author's experience and conclusion, analysis of your experience and conclusion. Having partook in the project or having carried out the project, which now metamorphose into your critical analysis, what experience, and applying the estate survey and valuation principles in solving those problems, what knowledge have you gained? You have to analyze what new experience have you added to yourself. You have to analyze those experiences in a way that the examiner will be able to know that certain knowledge has been, you have gained substantial knowledge in work, and that is the essence. Okay, then recommendations that all candidates shall strictly write the critical analysis based on the format proposed above. 2, the new critical analysis format be written with font size 14, font style times New Roman, line spacing 1.5. Okay, paragraphing, block paragraph. Okay, we have block and we have the other one, we centralized one. Okay, page numbering, bottom center. That is, your numbering should not be by the side, right side or left, must be at the center. Subheadings in sentence case. What do you mean by sentence case? Sorry, headings in capital letters, cap locks. The main headings in capital letter, subheadings in sentence case. That is, every word in your heading has initial capital. That's what they mean by that. If you want to write, for instance, your subheading is management process. The word management, M in management will be, if it's a subheading, M in management will be capital, and P in process will also be capital. As a sub, others will be in lowercase letters. Then there should be an oath of responsibility and commitment by the candidate supervisor. Okay, I mentioned that earlier. We are going to see the format of the oaths also on this form. Okay, now candidate's oath of commitment and responsibility. You see, I confirm that this CA is my work, and affirm, and I duly wrote the critical analysis with diligence in furtherance of the intellectual and ethical groups of the estate surveying and valuation profession. I further accept to be held responsible for any infringement by me as a result of either plagiarism or any unethical conduct during the writing of the critical analysis, name of candidate, place of work, qualification, signature. Then number 2, supervisor's oath of commitment. You see, I said earlier that both candidate and supervisor, we have to be more serious with the work so that we won't be found wanting on the wrong side of the law, okay? Supervisor, so I confirm that this critical analysis is the work of the candidates, the name of the candidate, with graduate or probational member number, so, that I supervise the work and should be held responsible for poor supervision in line with council decision. Name of supervisor, place of work, qualification, year of election, signature and date, seal and adhesive stamp. See, it's like, don't supervise if you don't have time to look at the work. That's what it means to me. So it's very serious, but that does not mean we shouldn't supervise. It only means that let's get familiar with how it is done so that we can supervise well. Let the candidate also get familiar with how it is done so that it will make his work very easy to write, and it will also make it very easy for him to defend. Okay, then next to that is punishment for supervisor. It's a serious matter. Number 1, supervisors who are found wanting of poor supervision should be suspended from supervising any candidates for a period of 1 year, okay? For a period of 1 year. 2, the name of the hearing supervisor should be published on the various platforms of the institution to ensure that candidates do not come to him or her for supervision during his or her period of suspension. You see, once name will be, God forbid, publication of the name that social person can no longer, I think we don't need that, and we pray that it never happens, but we must work for it. Number 3, a letter of reprimand should be served to the hearing supervisor. It's a whole lot of, it's embarrassing, and we pray we don't find ourselves there. Then number 4, and any other punishment council may deem fit as a further punishment for such supervisor. It was equally agreed by the committee that the branch chairmen should on a regular basis address their members on the subject of supervision. It should be a topic of discussion in every of their meetings. And the essence of this is to ensure that people get acquainted with the way supervision should be done, or the way the whole of this exercise should be carried out. Thank you. Moderator, do we have any more questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
From Mr. Ismail Olaniyi. He said,
okay.
Can you please explain the process of becoming a fellow of the institution presently?
Yes, you know, our institution is a dynamic one. And I can only say what I know. You know, good enough for us, our director of studies is online. But before I invite our director of study to, is a fellow, to let us know, to guide us on this, to answer the question for us, let me just tell you the few things I know so that our director of studies, to ease the work of our director of studies. Number 1 is that to become a fellow of the institution, you must have been an associate for a period not less than 10 years before you can apply. And you see, we must know that the fellowship of our institution, it is not a right, it is a privilege. And that is why the committee in charge of the of the fellowship of our institution is a privileges committee headed by immediate past president of the institution. So it is not a right, it is a privilege. And for one to be qualified to apply for it, you must have attained 10 years of being an associate. And there are requirements. You must have been contributing immensely to the growth and development of the institution, because the fellow of our institution is like a SAN in the legal profession. And people who get to that level, they are people that they have been able to prove in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their contribution to the profession, materially or in kind, that the institution they must have contributed, greatly. That this institution is like their blood. So they want to see that before. Those contributions are very important before one can be considered. You can apply, but you may not be considered for fellowship. So I think on this, let me crave the indulgence of our Director of Studies to help me further in this regard. He's a fellow. I'm still an associate of less than 10 years. So our Director of Studies is Estate Surveyor Lalika Aboderi.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, Lalika Aboderi, please have the floor.
Okay, I think he has unmuted himself.
Good morning, everyone. And let's appreciate our resource person today. Yes, we commend our. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. My own perspective to this question is a little different. Number one is that I think is outside the scope of work for today. And number two is that I don't know if our license, our registration with NIESV actually covers projecting to fellowship. But having said that, I will advise that the Academy will look into this request, liaise with membership committee, and probably collaborate with membership committee and come up with a section, likely free section like this, to sensitize our members on becoming fellow. But having said that, in a nutshell, you require to have attained 10 years post-associateship. It's important to be feasible and be participating in NIESV activities. It's important to have supervised candidates. Minimum of 3 is required. Minimum of 3 is required. The form actually says minimum of 3 and maximum of 5. It's important to have contributed to capacity building in terms of paper presentation, in terms of this kind of webinar. I think for minimum of 8 hours, capacity building. If the person claims to be in practice and is running a firm, he must have done firm registration with NIESV. Otherwise, he will not be invited for interview. He must have a physical office because there is going to be inspection of the work base. In the office, part of criteria they will check, and that is handled by privilege committee. They will check the operation process. They will check if there is organizational structure. They will check, more importantly, if the office has library. They will check the human resources capacity, both professional, essay surveyors, non-professional essay surveyors, and including the auxiliary staffs. Equally, they will want to be sure that the company runs trainings or trains its staff in terms of manpower developments. All these are part of the assessment that the privilege committee will do during visitation or inspection of the office. Now, if that is for candidate that runs office, that runs a practice, and is the principal of the practice. So all these requirements will be necessary. Then apart from that, participation in NIESV activities, particularly the conferences. I think about 5 conferences are required. And evidence of support for professional development, maybe donations to schools, or the institution itself, presentations of papers, publications in journals, publications in NIESV, maybe national MCPD conferences, or even state MCPD. These are the requirements. So it's fundamentally required that any applicant we have to meet all these conditions. I need to say here that these conditions are rated. It does not mean that you should have 100% in all. They are rated, but they have their pass mark. So after meeting all these requirements, and this requirement will be communicated to NIESV through application form. Because the aspiring fellow, we have to obtain application form. I think that form is 150,000, if my memory serves me well. No, sorry, the form is 50,000. And I think the processing of the form is 150,000, making 200,000. And that form, the candidates, the aspiring fellow will submit all his credentials, complete the form, submit all his credentials, and all these requirements, their evidences will be submitted, and is going to make this submission through the branch. The branch will attest to it too, that is a known member, and pass its own comments, and that will be now forwarded to the national and for the attention of the privilege committee. So after all these pre-qualifications assessments, privilege committee will invite all shortlisted aspiring candidates, aspiring fellow, the candidate for our fellowship, to interview. So another leg is that the candidates must convince privilege committee that it's actually eligible to be a fellow. Is competent, is qualified, is eligible, and is equally suitable to be a fellow. So there'll be chats with privilege committee. If the candidate becomes successful, then privilege committee will present such candidates to the council for further consideration. And at that point too, there is always what we call, let me use the word of our resource person, benevolence. But for some of us, we call it pledge. You have to make contribution to NIESV. And that will cover, in the recent time, I think it covers contribution to building projects and the special pledge. Well, without missing where it can run to $1 million. I think building projects specifically is 250,000 the last time. The minimum pledge that was accepted that last time, and it was out of magnanimity of the president, according to what we had, was 900,000 as pledge, apart from the 250. Then such candidate must be ready to pay for the induction. I think this last one, and maybe the previous one, was 150. and a host of all other little payment here and there. The last induction witnessed wearing of gown. So to wear gown, you have to hire the gown from NIESV. And that gown, the last charge for the gown was 30,000. There was a prospectus or a brochure made for that thing, another 30,000, and so on and so forth like that. So any aspiring candidate, I would advise, should be thinking of between 1.3 to 1.5 million as cost implication. If you are lucky that you won't have to travel to Port Harcourt, to Abuja, or Kaduna, or wherever, or you are not coming to Lagos. If you, all this that I've said in terms of finance and financial obligations do not cover expenses, traveling expenses, hotel expenses, lodging expenses, or feeding. So I think basically that's just the summary of the requirements. But I can tell you that NIESV is not only about the money now, they equally try to pre-qualify, check your credentials, be sure you have met the requirement. Let me give you an instance. I think it was in last year, we learned that a candidate was just about a few months, maybe about just 2-3 months to the end of being attaining for 10 years as an associate. He was disqualified because the law says you must have attained 10 years. There are some other disqualification on the basis that probably you have not contributed to the profession enough in terms of capacity building. So let's put all this in mind. If we are aspiring to be fellow, of course, everybody should aspire to be, because I've been charged to be an ambassador of our institution. So everybody should be aspiring to be, and then let's get ready for it. So, but having said this, please, we will liaise with giving that question, because it means that probably we have a host of other people in this shoe that we really need to meet their need. So the management of the academy will consider sending requests to NIESV membership. More importantly, that this is beyond associates, becoming associate member, so that if there can be this kind of webinar, to sensitize as people that are already qualified to be, and to equally let them know what is required to become one. Okay, so, but I noticed that there are a lot of questions. So let me pause here so that the resource person will continue answering the questions. I think there are so many interesting questions here that are very, very germane to his presentation. Then thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, the next question from Mr. Kamaldeen Oladepo. He said, after passing the exam, what is the next step?
Okay. After passing the exam, the next step is for candidates to prepare all the requirements that we make him meet qualify for selection for interview. And this requirement starts from the choice of topic. And this choice of topic has to do with, must come from a project that the candidate has carried out during his period of pupillage, okay, that he partook in or carried out, solely. That's where you draw the topic from. So when that topic, you get a supervisor who is ready to supervise you, and you take the topic to him. Once he approves the topic, you write a maximum 100-word synopsis, okay? And when you write synopsis, you submit for approval. Once the synopsis is approved, you write your critical analysis. Then all other supporting, like as you are doing that, before you get to that stage, you don't wait until you get to the final stage before you start attending conferences or MCPDs. You'll have been doing that too, those ones too along. Okay, so essentially, after passing exam, the next thing is all the preparation towards the application for interview, or all the requirement to meet all those requirements that will qualify a candidate to be selected for associate election interview. That's the next thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The next question. What happens in a situation where you do not have all the certificates for conferences and MCPD?
Okay, yes, what happens in that case is that even where you submit your application for interview and these things are not complete, they will notify you, okay, that you are not going to be invited because you are not qualified to be selected or to be invited for interview. Okay, but like I said, at least one or two interviews, previous interviews, they notify the candidates on why they were not invited for interview. Okay, some of them it was incomplete credit points based on the number of conferences required, some other reasons. Okay, so if you don't have the required number of credit points, you are not going to be invited for interview, even if you submit your application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. From Mr. Sunday Ogundele, he said, is the submission of degree certificates, either HND or BSc, compulsory at the point of applying for membership? Rather, can it be submitted later or before being elected?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. That question is a very important one because a lot of people have had issues on account of things like that in the past. Okay, it's compulsory you submit your degree certificates. You see, you want to apply for membership of the institution, and there are different cadres of membership in the institution. So as you're applying for member, if you don't show your certificates, what you have, you will not be able to the institution will not be able to place you on the appropriate cadre that you are supposed to belong. Because what happens is that by the time you put in your application for membership, you'll be sent, after reviewing the whole thing, screening, they will send you an email. And in that email, you'll be told, you'll be given membership number, and your membership number will depend on your cadre of membership. Okay, and to be able to determine your cadre of membership, all these certificates are very important. So you must submit the certificates at that point. Apart from that, you also need to also, when you are doing the submitting your pink form, you also need to upload your certificates again. That is what is on ground for now, except it changes tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. From Mrs. or Miss, I don't know, Omotola Akinyemi, she said she remembered you mentioned muffler for the ladies. Is it compulsory to use it on suits?
Yes, when you are going for, okay, the issue of muffler, I think, is in the case of when you, it's usually compulsory. They usually make it compulsory when you are going for induction, okay, whether NIESV induction or NIESV induction, okay. So, but for interview, I don't think it's compulsory, but you must dress properly, dress well, okay. So I remember the last NIESV induction, they specify the kind of blue. You know, when they say wear blue, people will just wearing all shades of blue colored dress. So they specify the kind of blue they want. I think it even created a bit of issue from what I gathered, that some people were denied access to the hall in the first place before the registrar now pleaded for them. So I'm not sure. I don't think it's compulsory. Muffler is compulsory for interview. All you are required to do is to dress properly and don't overdress. you know. So, but where you use the muffler too, I think it adds to your dress. It presents you more to be more corporate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. From Oyinlowo Taiwo, what of the people with NIESV receipts, will it be allowed? The people with NIESV receipts, will it be allowed?
Okay, if I understand that question very well, will they be allowed to do the interview? Maybe that's what the person wanted to ask.
Yes, sir.
No, you won't. You see, the whole of it's a process, okay? And you cannot jump one step and move to another. You must complete the process. You must follow the process. If you have not fulfilled all the academic requirements, you cannot move to the fulfilling requirement for the last stage of the test of professional competence. No, you have to pass your exam because it is a prerequisite. Passing all your exam, and that's, if you remember when I was doing my presentation, I said to be able to apply for interview, you must have passed all your exam up to PPE level. So if you have a receipt, you have to clear the receipt first before you move to the next stage. Thank you.
Sir, not receipt, receipt.
Receipt.
Receipt. RECEIPT. Receipt. Maybe for that or certificates.
Okay, in the place of certificates. Yes, instead sir. Of okay. I get that now. Okay, at least up to 2020, is it 2020 or 2021? I know in place of certificates, NIESV allow people to present the receipts for in place of certificates. But you know, like I said earlier, things keep changing. Okay, so I don't know whether that has changed now, but up to 2021, NIESV was still taking receipt in place of MCPD or conferences certificates. But I don't know if it has changed today. So we need to find out properly so that if what you have is receipts, then you can find out from the institution, whether from the LIESI office or you call the Abuja office to be sure that it will be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. This question goes thus: if I have written my thesis 5 years ago, and for one reason or the other, I did not submit on time, can that thesis still be valid when I'm ready for submission? For example, if I have written on economic recession and we know that as a country we have passed that phase, hope such thesis will still be valid.
It will not be valid, not on the basis of the fact that the topic, not on the basis of the fact that the topic is no longer contemporary, but on the basis of the fact that that's the synopsis upon which the critical analysis was written. That synopsis is more than 2 years. Okay, you know, I said earlier that the synopsis, you must write your critical analysis within 2 years and submit. You can't write your critical analysis and keep it at 2 years. So after all, finished. As far as the institution is concerned, you have not finished because you have not submitted. So the submission, the date of submission is what they count. So if you have written your critical analysis for a period of more than 2 years and you still have it with you, you have not submitted to the institution, it's no longer valid. What let me be clear here. The validity I'm talking about here is not about whether you can no longer submit the critical analysis, okay? But because you have to do revalidation of that synopsis to be able to, I think 5 years, many things will have to change in the work, if not entirely. If that topic does not change entirely, because if it has to be with, if you say during the period of recession, okay, it's no longer now, when we are not in a recession, it may no longer be contemporary. So that's why I said there may be a change in some things in the topic, or a total change, it depends. But if the validation is done and the topic is put in, it's a 50-50 chance. Okay, that's whether it will say to, you know, you can write about recession when a nation is just coming out of recession, or when when there's likelihood of a nation going into recession. You can write on that, but one must be very careful in selecting a topic of that nature. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Please, at what stage will the logbook be given?
Okay, the moment it's not given, no, it's bought. The moment a candidate, even before you complete writing your exam, you can write you can buy your synopsis. Sorry, you can buy your logbook and the diary even before finishing writing, so long as you are attached or you work in an estate firm where your period of pupillage has started counting. Even before your period of pupillage starts counting, it is the moment you apply for membership, it is good you have it with you, so that by the time you record your activities, if not for any other thing, you'll be able to save in case even if the price goes up. So it's still going to be acceptable. But essentially, the period when you need to fill the critical analysis is for the period of your pupillage. That period, that 2 years, that is the period it covers. So it's essential for you to buy the logbook and diary before the commencement of your pupillage period. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the last question here. The conference and MCPD being attended as a student while in university, does it count? Because my total points is more than 20 as a student member.
It's one question that I cannot provide a direct answer to. You know, why it is so. Why it is so is that when you, as a student, yes, you have paid for those conferences, you paid for those MCPDs as students, and I don't know the position of the membership committee regarding that. But what I can say is that we have had the cases I've heard are cases of people who augmented their credit points with the certificates they acquired during when they were students. Okay, so they used to augment, and there was no issue. But I cannot say emphatically that as a student, the certificate you acquired for MCP and companies as a student will be accepted. But I'm telling you my own experience, or somebody's experience that I share, that what he used to augment his credit point was those certificates he acquired during the period of when he was a student. I think that's the best way I can answer the question. So I will encourage the questioner to do more findings from a membership committee. You can call the secretariat to talk to somebody in the membership committee and get all this from. I mean, membership secretariat staff in charge of membership committee. They'll be able to guide in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, among the participants, some asked for lecture materials. And,
okay, no problem. Okay.
And previous series, the link where they can watch the videos.
Okay. For today's own, our user practice is that after every webinar like this, those who registered for the webinar will receive these materials in their email. And we are going to do the same thing for this one too. And the previous one, please, Madam Medina, please talk to Yusuf if he can share the link also with them while he's sending the mail, so that they can have access to them. Thank you. Hello? Hello?
Sir, Mr.
Okay.
Yusuf is working on it. He will share the link as soon as he gets it, sir.
All right. All right. Any other question?
No, sir, no questions again.
Okay, I think in the absence of any other question, can we bring the session to a close?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to appreciate, oh, somebody raised hand here. I don't know who the person is. Please check there's a hand raised.
Okay, sir.
Check, there's somebody who raised the hand. I can see it, but I don't know.
Okay. Madam Adebukola Gwangoshe and
Okay.
Mr. Kamaldeen Oladepo.
Okay. Can you give them this thing? Just or mute them, or you had them make them panelists so that we can hear them.
They can talk now, Madam Bangoshe.
Okay, please go ahead, ma. Madam, you can talk, ma. Please unmute yourself and talk. Okay.
Mr.
Kamaldeen Oladepo, you
Oladepo.
can unmute yourself and talk, please. Hello. I think there are now three. Mr. Taiwo Sunday, Mr. Adebu, and Mr. Kamaldeen Oladepo, Mrs. Adebukola Gwangoshe. Please, any one of you
speaking. Can you hear me now?
Okay, Mr. Taiwo, yes, go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you for this. I've been following the webinar. My question is, I haven't gotten any logbook and I've done more than 1 year tutelage. Can it be backdated? If I eventually get it now, can I backdate it? And secondly, concerning the conferences certificate acquired as a student, please, I would like more understanding to come on it concerning that, please, because you say we should make inquiry by ourselves. What's your own standpoint? Is it acceptable? I know, yes, we will still attend, but is it acceptable? So those are the two questions. Quick one, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. The first question is whether you started your pupillage a year ago and you have not started recording your experience in your activities in the logbook and diary. You can buy now and record your activities from when in your diary, starting from when you started your pupillage. All you need to do, the dates you are going to take will be the dates you started your pupillage, which is like you are backdating now, and they cover a period of 2 years. That is allowed, so long as that is the period when you started your pupillage. It won't count against you. But the other question on what I can say is this, because I don't want to give an emphatic answer that we mislead participants. Okay, my own experience is what I've said, that somebody used the certificate he acquired during student days to augment his, and if something went well, no, there was no issue. Okay, but I can also now use that to say that is the position. So what I can say is that I don't know when we'll be meeting again. It's something we can get the answer to from the members of the management committee, and but I think the secretariat too can help. But whatever it is, maybe you have our mail. Okay, you are going to get a mail from us. So please, you can send a mail to us as a reminder, so we can find out from the members of the management committee so that we can get an emphatic answer to that. I think that is the way to go. But I hope that is okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. If I may add to that, my apologies. The tutelage is the 2 years. Is it compulsory that it must be a real estate firm? Maybe having done a year in a real estate firm and another year, maybe due to finance, a change of job, but you are still in the real estate line in the broader scope. So is it limited to an estate surveying and valuation firm, or maybe I find myself in another organization where I'm actually the property manager, the facility personnel?
Okay, all right, thank you. That's a very important question. You see, estate firm, yes. If one works in an estate firm, that is fine. But in the profession, they talk about industry-based supervisor. Industry-based supervisor is a supervisor who is an estate surveyor and valuer and is qualified by all ramification, qualified to supervise. It's more than 5 years as an associate, is financially up to date, and is doing the office where he is where what they do is related to estate surveying and valuation. It is not only in estate firm. Your case is very okay, but what is important is that if you change from estate firm to a finance company or any other company, okay, for you to be able to use that company as a place of work, you must be able to convince the institution that you have an industry-based supervisor in your new place of work who is an estate surveyor and valuer and can serve as your industry-based supervisor for the purpose of practical experience in the profession. But where you do not have that, then you cannot use that place as a place of your place of work for the purpose of NIESV's application for interview. So what is critical? For instance, if you work in a limited liability company, a property company, where you have maybe your boss there is an estate surveyor and valuer, okay, is qualified by her standard, he can supervise, and so it doesn't matter. Even if you work in a bank and the bank, what you do for the bank is related to estate surveying and valuation, and you have an industry-based supervisor working in that bank who is like your boss, who will be your supervisor there, the institution will allow it. Okay, but what is critical is that somebody you work under must also be, irrespective of where you work, must also be an estate surveyor and valuer. I hope that's.
Oh, excuse me, before you go further, please.
Yes, sir.
Let me just say 1 or 2 things concerning Mr. Taiwo's question. The first one, the one that has to do with the logbook. The modification I want to add is that in terms of having to backdate, because you have spent a year, you are now to obtain the logbook. That is not the norm. That's not what you are expected to do. What you are expected to do is to book your activities as you do it. Because when you backdate or you just have to fill the logbook as at the time you are ready, chances are that you mutilate a lot of things. The chances are that a lot of things will be forged. That is the norm, that is the standard. However, having said that, Komodin used the word that said is allowed. That's the caution I want to make. It's not allowed for you to backdate or to complete your logbook in arrears. However, we are aware that that's what most people do, and institutions have been accepting it. Maybe under the pretense that, there's no way to prove that, did you fill it as I went due or what have you. The essence of that logbook, even if it's not that you are filling the logbook directly, you should have a diary. You should have your own book where you keep all these activities so that you'll be able to fill them firsthand as they occur when you are now ready to fill your logbook. But as Kamaldis said, what I expect him to say and what I think he wants to say is that people do it. People fill in areas and people submit. But as a Center for Real Estate Professional Development, we have to uphold the standard, and the standard is you're supposed to do it as you and feel it as you are doing the activities. Now, if for maybe because of you want to be perfect, you can get exercise books and be booking all you do, then transfer them later. So that with that, you are sure that you actually did all those things you claim to have been done, and as when you do them. So, but the emphasis here is that even the institution, people like us, a lot of people know that, well, that's not what happens. Most of us supervise candidates, we know that's not what happened, right? So I think the best thing is to say, well, institution have been accepting those logbooks without complaining. But that does not mean that that is allowed. So if we want to really follow this, and I have the privilege of being part of I think a committee on logbook review, diary and logbook review, and so and things like that. Part of the concerns raised among committee members is this what we are talking about now, having to complete the logbook in areas. What's the assurance that candidates actually participated in what they claim they have participated in, and so on and so forth. But I need to tell you that almost all of us are affected. So is the institution have been accepting those things, maybe until maybe another time they can say no. But, and I think the challenge is that there is no basis yet for institution to be tracking candidates' activities. Even though in that committee, I think we made recommendation that activities should be posted every time online. So each candidate that is aspiring to be an associate member, and immediately after you graduate school, you register as a member, you open your own portal as a member, and you are posting on real time. So there is no way, no hidden space if that is implemented. But for now, it's not yet implemented. So I think I want to draw our attention to that. While we can do completing the logbook in areas where people have been doing it, that does not make it to mean that it's allowed by the institution. But you have the privilege that you can do it. And the earlier you quickly do what you want to do, the better, because things can change tomorrow. And if it changes, that means you need that 2 years starting from wherever you are now. Thank you. So you can continue, please.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, sir. I think you are very correct, because that has been but what I actually meant to say, what I actually meant, or what I meant by what I said was that, okay, I think I heard in constant that, okay, the period of 1 year, that the first year has maybe he has been noting down his activities during that 1 year period. Okay, so but I thank you so much for that observation.
Okay, sorry, I remember too that he mentioned changing of workplace.
Yes.
And from what he said, he seemed to be the boss, he seemed to be the expert in where he's working, because I listened to him. He said he's now either the property manager, or if the person is now the property manager or facility manager. Please get what Corondin said very well. You have to be under tutelage of somebody. There must be industry-based supervisor, somebody that NIESV believes is competent, he has requisite skill to oversee your pupillage period. So that's very important. So if you are the only professional where you don't have a senior, or you have a senior that is not a qualified, not a registered surveyor, then that would not be a suitable place for you to claim for your work experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, Mrs. Adebukola Bambushi.
Good.
Mrs. Adebukola Bambushi.
Let Oladepo talk. Oladepo has unmuted himself.
Okay, yes, Mr. Oladepo, please go ahead.
Maybe he does not want to talk again. He has removed. He has lowered his hand.
Okay. Okay, so moderator, do we have any more questions?
No, sir.
Okay, I think this will be a convenient point to end today's webinar. Why we want to thank all participants for their time, for their data, and we have sacrificed, you have also sacrificed, and I want to let you know that this is what we do at Race Academy. This is part of our CSR, corporate social responsibility to the institution that has given us what you have, and we will continue to do more and more of this to be able to, this is part of our own contribution to the institution, and we'll continue to have programs, free webinars like this and other free programs that members can benefit from. Okay, so just watch out for our page, visit our YouTube page, visit our website. You see our programs there, upcoming programs, both paid and free ones, and you can let us know when you need our assistance. They will also have mentoring section. Okay, we mentor also. If you have any areas of the profession or in your progression to associates, there are certain issues you have, you can call any of our members of faculty to assist. So thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, everybody. Yeah.